Last month, a 24-year-old named Jordan got her first real paycheck. She'd worked every shift available, covered for coworkers, stayed late without being asked. The number on her offer letter said $2,400. The number that hit her bank account said $1,731. She stared at her phone for a full minute trying to figure out where $669 went. Nobody had ever explained this to her. Not her parents, not her school, not her employer. She just had to figure it out alone like everyone else. This video is everything Jordan wished she'd known before that moment. Pay attention, because nobody is going to teach you this in a classroom. Let's start with taxes. When that paycheck hits, the government has already taken its cut before you see a single dollar. Federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security, Medicare. Each one a separate slice of what you earned. This isn't theft, it's the cost of living in an organized society. Roads, schools, hospitals, emergency services. These things don't pay for themselves. But here's what they don't tell you. There are different types of taxes hitting you from multiple directions. Income tax hits the money you make. Sales tax hits the money you spend. Capital gains tax hits the money your investments earn while you sleep. The government has engineered a system where nearly every dollar that moves touches a tax somewhere. Social Security tax forces you to pre-save for retirement. You'll get it back eventually when you're old. Medicare tax funds health care for elderly and seriously ill people. You're paying into systems you won't access for decades. Understanding this isn't about being angry. It's about making decisions with full information. Countries with higher tax rates generally deliver higher quality of life. The real question isn't how much you pay, it's whether you understand why and how to minimize it legally through smart financial decisions. Now let's talk about where that remaining paycheck goes. Banks. Most people think of a bank like a giant vault with one job: guard your money. That mental model is completely wrong, and understanding the reality changes everything. When you deposit $1,000 into your account, the bank immediately lends out $900 of it to someone else. They keep $100. This is called fractional reserve banking, and it's the foundation of the entire financial system. The bank is betting that not everyone will show up at the same time demanding all their money back. That bet works almost every time, until 2008 when it didn't, and the whole system nearly collapsed overnight. Here's how banks actually make money. They pay you 0.5% interest on your savings while lending your money out at 7%, 12%, 24% interest to borrowers. The difference between what they pay you and what they charge borrowers is pure profit. You are the supply, borrowers are the demand. The bank is just the middleman collecting a fee on every transaction. They entice you to keep money with them through convenience, safety, and the promise of that tiny interest payment. In the U.S., deposits up to $250,000 are government insured. Your money is safe, but understand what the bank is doing with it the moment you walk out the door. Which brings us to interest, the most powerful force in personal finance, working either for you or against you every single day. Borrow $1,000 today and pay back $1,280 next year. That extra $280 is interest. It's the price of using money that isn't yours. There are two types, and the difference between them is the difference between financial freedom and financial disaster. Simple interest is a flat fee, straightforward math. Compound interest is the dangerous one. Your balance grows, then the interest is calculated on the new larger balance, which grows the balance further, which increases the next interest calculation. It compounds, feeding on itself endlessly. If you owe 20% interest on a credit card and miss a payment, the interest starts earning interest. That $12 takeaway meal becomes a $50 regret within months. The same mechanic works in reverse when you're investing. $100 invested at 7% annual compound interest doesn't just become $107, it becomes $200, then $400, then $800. Decades later, you wake up and the math has done things that feel almost impossible. This is why interest is the silent engine behind both wealth and debt simultaneously. On one side, it's a slow burn, turning small mistakes into financial disasters. On the other side, it's a time bomb, turning small investments into massive wealth. The strategy is simple, even if the discipline is hard. Attack interest you're paying, feed interest you're earning. Every dollar of high-interest debt you eliminate is a guaranteed return. Every dollar invested early compounds for longer. Now let's talk about something that quietly destroys wealth without anyone noticing: inflation. You bought the same bag of chips last year for $3. Today, it costs $4. The chips didn't get better, your dollar got weaker. Inflation is the slow erosion of purchasing power over time. Your $5 bill is technically $5, but it buys progressively less of everything year after year. What causes it? Sometimes the economy has too much money chasing too few goods, and prices rise to compensate. Sometimes supply chains break down, and the cost of making things increases, so the price of selling things increases. Sometimes people simply expect prices to rise so fast that they spend faster now, which drives prices up faster, creating exactly what they feared: a self-fulfilling cycle. 2% inflation per year is normal and manageable. When it spikes above that, savings erode, wages lag, and the government responds by raising interest rates to cool the economy down by making borrowing more expensive. Here's why this matters directly to your money. Cash sitting in a low-interest account loses value to inflation every single year. The dollar you save today has less purchasing power in 10 years. This isn't a theory, it's math, and it's the primary reason doing nothing with your money is actually a losing strategy. Now let's talk about recessions, because they will happen during your lifetime, and understanding them removes the panic. A recession is when the economy contracts for at least 6 consecutive months. Jobs disappear, companies slash costs, people stop spending on anything non-essential. It feels sudden, but recessions build slowly, usually triggered by high interest rates making borrowing too expensive, global crises disrupting supply chains and confidence, or simply the natural economic cycle completing its pattern: boom, peak, contraction, reset. The boom feels endless until it doesn't. Then the correction arrives and it hurts. Recessions aren't permanent, they're resets. Governments lower interest rates to stimulate borrowing and spending. Stimulus enters the economy. Businesses slowly rebuild. Growth resumes. But the people who survive recessions best aren't the ones who panic and sell everything. They're the ones who understood this cycle was coming, had emergency savings, kept investing consistently through the downturn, and positioned themselves to benefit when the recovery arrived. Recessions punish the unprepared and reward the patient. Credit scores. This 3-digit number has enormous power over your financial life, and almost nobody explains how it actually works. Your credit score ranges from 300 to 850. Below 580, and lenders see you as high risk, charging you punishing interest rates if they lend to you at all. Above 750, and doors open easily with favorable terms. It's calculated across 5 factors. Payment history is the biggest, making up 35% of your score. Pay everything on time, always. Credit utilization is next. How much of your available credit are you actually using? Stay below 30%. Credit age rewards long-standing accounts. Credit mix rewards having different types of credit. New credit applications temporarily lower your score. Here's the counterintuitive part that trips everyone up. You can have zero debt, be financially responsible in every way, and still have a poor credit score simply because you have no credit history. The system doesn't measure how good you are with money. It measures how predictable you are to lenders. The game feels rigged because it's designed to serve lenders, not borrowers. But once you understand the rules, you can play them deliberately. Open a credit card, use it for small purchases, pay it in full every single month. Build a history of being boring and predictable to lenders. Your score will climb, and the system that was designed for lenders will start working in your favor. Money itself. Here's the part that breaks people's brains when they first understand it. Money isn't real. A dollar bill has no inherent value. It's a piece of specially printed paper. The only reason it can buy a coffee or car is because every participant in the economy has collectively agreed to believe it can. That shared belief is the entire foundation. A Bitcoin has no more or less inherent legitimacy than a dollar bill. Both exist because people believe they do. The government prints money, central banks regulate how much exists in circulation, and people trade it daily for goods and services. The reason this regulation matters is simple. Print too much money, and everyone's savings become worthless through inflation. Restrict money supply too aggressively, and the economy seizes up, and people can't function. The entire global financial system runs on a shared agreement backed by institutional trust. Understanding this means understanding that money is a tool, not a destination. It's a medium of exchange that has value precisely because enough people agree it does. Investing. Now you understand inflation is silently stealing the value of idle cash. The antidote is investing. Investing is what happens when your money stops sitting and starts working. Instead of trading your time for money, you're putting money to work, generating more money while you sleep. The main vehicles are stocks, which are small ownership slices of companies that rise in value as companies grow. Bonds, where you loan money to governments or corporations and receive interest payments. Funds, which bundle hundreds of stocks and bonds together so you're automatically diversified without having to pick individual winners. Real estate, where property generates rental income and appreciates over time. The goal isn't to get lucky or find the next big thing. It's to start early, diversify broadly, and be relentlessly patient. The wealthy didn't win financial lotteries. They gave compound growth decades to operate. The single biggest mistake ordinary people make is waiting to invest until they have enough money to invest. You never feel like you have enough. Start with what you have. Time in the market always beats timing the market. Value. This is the concept that separates people who earn average incomes from people who build generational wealth. Pick up a plain gray rock. It's worth nothing. Now pick up a shiny yellow rock. That's gold. It's rarer, people want it, so the market prices it higher. The gold isn't objectively better than the gray rock. Humans simply agree it's more valuable, so it is. This is the entire secret to high income. The market pays people in direct proportion to the value others perceive them to provide. Surgeons earn high incomes because the value of their service is enormous and difficult to replace. A luxury brand charges 100 times more than a generic brand for an equivalent product because people perceive greater value in the name. If you want to dramatically increase what you earn, the path is not working harder at the same things. It's increasing the perceived and real value you provide to others. Build rare skills, solve expensive problems, create things that improve lives at scale. The market will price you accordingly. Which brings us to the last concept, time. It is the most valuable asset you will ever have and the only one you cannot earn back. Most people trade time directly for money in a straight exchange. 1 hour of work equals 1 paycheck. This math has a ceiling because there are only so many hours available. The people who build real wealth figure out how to make their time worth exponentially more per hour through skills, leverage, and systems that generate value while they're not working. But nowhere does the power of time show up more dramatically than in investing. A 22-year-old who invests $200 per month consistently will retire with significantly more wealth than a 35-year-old investing $500 per month, simply because compound growth had 13 more years to operate. The math isn't magic, it's time. Ordinary people with modest incomes retire with 7-figure wealth, not because they were lucky or brilliant, but because they started early and stayed consistent. They didn't beat the financial system, they used it. Jordan is 24. She now knows where that $669 went. She knows how banks work. She knows what compound interest does in both directions. She knows inflation is quietly working against idle cash. She knows her credit score is a game she can learn to win. She knows investing early beats investing more later. She knows value creation is the path to higher income. She knows time is already working either for her or against her, depending on what she does next. The question is, what will you do with what you know now?